Salut les amis, I'm your host, Alistair. Oh, I have such good time making these snippets. I do. Okay, so a property inspection was done on the property in question that I have shared with you in terms of its performance. Feel free to go back in time and check out all the videos I made about it. Now, I want to show you a little bit some of the quality standards that I am exigent of myself when it comes to running this rental business of mine. Anyway, let's get to it. Okay, so through the editing, I'm going to skim through and show you a little bit of what the report looks like. And again, it has some pictures, it has some very thorough inspection parameters, okay? And it has a grading system, all right? Now, for the purposes of the privacy of my tenant, I will be blurring a few things here and there. The first page of the report is always a summary of the entire report. And the reason why he does that is two things. The first one is if there's anything urgently that needs to be addressed, don't spend your time, don't waste your time going through the report. Here are the important stuff to look at before you go over the entirety of the report, which I appreciate because sometimes reports can be quite long. This one is about what? How many pages is this? This is about 18 pages. So reports can be quite long. And so if you spend all your time going through the entire report to see what's the most important items to look at, you might waste some valuable times. And the second reason why there's a summary report, because in those property inspection report, I ask the actual inspector to talk to the tenant and ask him what feedback. Mr. Tenant, tell me feedback, right? And that's good. It's good because you know what? It gives the tenant some sense of control, but it also allows me to get a little bit inside his mind because, he can be open about a few things that he might not be open to talk to me about. So, general condition, property is in great condition, explanation point. Tenants, nothing to report, so he's very happy. Pets, no pets observed. That's important. I have a no pet policy. Smoke detectors, etc. They tested okay. Battery changed within the past 3 months. Okay. Most likely, I didn't change the battery, so most likely the tenant did that. Thank you. HVAC, observe. Satisfactory, cleaned, changed with the last 30 days. So I didn't do that, so they're doing that, which is a good thing. That means there's a proactivity going on from the part of the tenant. Now, other repairs. Interesting. So here's what the tenant says. The tenant states there seems to be something wrong with the breaker box. Said that if they plug anything into the kitchen, then it trips the breaker for one of the upstairs bedroom. That's new. Previous damage that was present upon moving in, living room floor damage, bathroom tile damage, etc. is still present, but tenants appear to be doing what they can to stop it from getting worse. Okay, so these damages, I know about them because during the eviction, there was chips going on the ceiling, which I figured they were very trivial. I didn't address. But the broken tile, it's something that I've had my contractor seal it to prevent water from going through. But the contractor told me that it's just a matter of time before I have to replace the floor. So the interesting language here is that the tenants appear to be doing what they can to stop it from getting worse. It means the seal may have broken. So I will have to get someone in there and have another look. And maybe it's time to replace it. Now, continuing the summary, condition summary. Now, this is the front yard, exterior landscaping, vines growing up on drain spout. Now, if you look at the media, the image, when I look at the image, yeah, look at that. It shows me the vine. So I have to address this right away, right? Next thing is flooring, baseboard, tile is damaged, cracked from previous, and then two images here. I'm gonna click on it, show you what they are. I do see it, and I do see the seal has gone, because when they put the seal, it had a shiny coat to it, and I don't see it being shiny anymore. So it's time to address it, right? And then the ceiling damage from the previous tenant, I'll show you what that looks like, and it looks like this. right? So it's very minor, it's very trivial, but again, this guy is a professional. He's trained to look at things that you and I might miss. And it looks like nothing, right? But to him, that is something important in the eyes of the court. So he mentions it, he points it out. Which of course I'm going to ignore it. It's just a little chip on the ceiling, on the ceiling edge. Yeah, of course I'm going to ignore it. Like, no. And then the flooring board that he mentions, look at that. It's just the scratches. Which, you know what? Which is interesting to me because as much as I laugh about it, it's good because that means he goes in there and he has the eyeballs and he's really looking and being attentive. Absolutely. Give me all the trivial stuff. Right. And through here, I'm just going to skim through very quickly. As you can see here, you have doorknobs, condition S, S, S. I'm going to blur the pictures. I'm not going to show you the pictures, but then you have, S's, pictures of whatever he's talking about. S, 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 look at that, all that stuff, right? And at the end of all that, so S, 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 really nothing to look at except on the first page, which I will just address the tiles, right? So the condition of property is absolutely great. And let me just X out of that. Perfect. So the condition of property is very great. I'm going to have someone in there to, well, two things. I have to have an electrician to go in there and look at what's causing things to break, like the breaker stuff. The second thing is I'm going to go and ask my contractor to go ahead and fix the tiles because the ceiling is gone and water is not something you play with. No. And then let's see, what else we have to do? Oh, the ivy growing on the wall. So it's something I'm going to call the tenant and tell him just remove the ivy. I don't want it to grow on the wall. Throughout this process, and because I have a system put in place where when the tenant makes a maintenance ticket, to the tenant, it's as if they are communicating to the contractor in question, right? But behind closed doors, behind the scenes, it's an interesting email macro situation. I see it. And so it's a good way for me to oversee what's going on without everybody kind of knowing that I'm actually overseeing what's going on. And so Brian, the inspector in question, one ways that I keep tabs on his performance is that, this schedule maintenance, this schedule inspection I was aware of. And I knew the time when he showed up and I knew all the details. And so I'm going to call the tenant and ask him, how was the experience? Was he on time? Was he professional? Was he respectful? Was there anything out of the ordinary? Because that's how I keep quality control within my contractual team. Because just because you're part of my team and just because you're a professional does not make you professional. And I think, at the end of the day, it's my business. So it's my responsibility to make sure the quality is there and to make sure that things are done correctly and right. I can't expect somebody else to take care of my business as good as me. And so I haven't called him yet, but I will call the tenant and ask for his feedback as to the experience. Now, the electrician, again, same thing. The electrician is going to the property today. And after he goes to the property, I will do the same. I will call the tenant. How was the experience? Was he professional? Did he get here on time? What time did he leave? Important questions. And I'm very frank with the tenant. I said, the reason why I'm asking this question is to make sure that there's quality control. But on my contractor side, they don't have to know that I'm doing this. And even if they did, I wouldn't care because it's my business. And the integrity is on me. And if something goes wrong, I'm the one who's losing. And so whether they like it or not, it's completely irrelevant. And if they don't like it, then they'll just be replaced. Simple as that. Somebody else will come in and take the job. But it's important that there's quality all over around because it's that quality that gives me the right and the authority to charge above market rent. So speaking of rent, we are now, so it's 2024. It's important I make that distinction because sometimes in the past video I talked about it in different years. So it's 2024, and rent is now 1955, and I didn't increase the rent for the year 2024, but I have to increase the rent for the year 2025. And so my plan is, and I have to increase it just because, well, I'll tell you why. The reason why I have to increase the rent is because even though I don't have to, even though I'm okay with the rent being the way it is, it's because when it's time to increase the rent, if you wait too long, the increase is sharper. So even if you don't increase it big time, increase it smallly, incrementally, because there will come a time where you would have to increase it. There will come a time if you continuously don't increase the rent that you will have to increase it. And that increase will be bigger, will be substantial. It will be a lot difficult for the tenant to digest. So that being said, I have to increase the rent in a small amount. I'm only going to increase the rent by $45. So right now it's around $19.55. I'm going to increase it to $2,000 a month, starting of the year 2025. In my mind, this is a stellar tenant. A tenant who pays rent on time. A tenant who not only actively and proactively does things to protect the house, my product. A tenant who is considerate enough to my product. I don't want to lose that tenant. And that tenant became instantly competitive. And because I'm charging above market rate, if I lose this tenant, it's going to cost me a lot more money to replace the tenant and deal with the uncertainty of a new tenant. So he doesn't even know it, but he's made himself extremely invaluable. He has an advantage over me, and I'm super scared to lose him. Anyway, that's enough rant. This video is supposed to be snippets. I can't stay here and talk a lot because I have a busy day. Now, I thank you so much for sticking around and watching. Hopefully this documentation of some of my day-to-day processing when it comes to this particular property is going to inspire potential landlords or potential business-minded people to understand that there's no such thing as passive income, especially if you dabble into the world of landlordship. And furthermore, being a landlord is not as, well, I said that passive, but it's not as, it's a business, and it's not a friendly manner. It's a business. Thank you so much. Like and subscribe. I will see you next time. I'm your host, Alistair.